Not at this stage. Hi, my name is. Welcome to CLACCA ULC Homegroup Bible Studies. If you're just joining us, my name is Mr. Rev Conrad Rowley, and I'd like to acknowledge that the land we're meeting on is of the Gadigal and the Wangal people of the Eora Nation, and I pay my respects to the elders, both past and present. Recognise sovereignty, treaty, and social justice has never been ceded. So today we're continuing to explore through the book of Genesis, and today specifically we're looking at Genesis chapter 32, and essentially this Genesis chapter 32 is broken up into two specific stories, and one story, one story primarily focuses on Jacob sending presents to appease Azua, and the other one, is in relation to Jacob wrestling at Peniel. Essentially, as we know behind the text, this was written approximately during the time of Moses. We suspect the author is Moses between 850 and 550 BCE. This is a brief report. This is a brief report from E. And Jacob's angelic counter for his resonances that point backward and forward. Jacob encounters the angels of God during both journeys, and in Jacob's naming speech, this is God's Mahanaim, also recalls Jacob's naming speech at Bethel. Jacob's angelic encounter also points forward to the sending of messengers, Mahakim, the same word for angels, and in verse 3 to the encounter with the divine being. Mahanim anticipate, which is literally meaning two camps, anticipates Jacob's division of Jacob's retinue into two companies, two camps, in verses 7 to 8. In 3 to 21, Jacob prepares to meet Esau, fearing that Esau will attack him. In the J version, Jacob prepares by dividing their retinue into two camps, hoping that in the case of the attack, one will escape, and prays to God to deliver them. In the E text, Jacob prepares a gift of livestock, hoping to appease Esau. The two versions complement each other and provide an ironic backdrop to the dangerous encounter that occurs next. Not with Esau, who turns out not to be a menacing at all, but with God. In 3 to 4, Esau now lives in the land of Seir, which is the country of Edom, as the earlier story foretold by the indicative words hairy and red. Although Esau is the brother, Jacob delicately addresses them as my lord Esau, refers to himself as your servant Jacob. Continues to use these terms when they meet in 333, 4 to 16, and my lord 5 times, your servant twice. This location reverses the relationship foretold in Isaac's blessing. Jacob will be lord over the brother, and Esau shall serve the brother. Jacob is attempting to mollify Esau by the deliberate use of language. That Esau is coming to meet Jacob is a natural response to Jacob's message. That 400 men with him raises the likelihood that Ezra is coming to exact revenge, echoing the pursuit of Jacob by Laban and the king, and recalling Ezra's intention to kill Jacob. Jacob's eloquent prayer recalls at the beginning and end God's promises in 31:3 and 28:13 to 15 of Jacob's humility. And this sounds a new note in Jacob's character. Though self abasement is a normal part of such discourse, the emotional appeal to the death of mothers and children is capped by the reference to God's promise of many descendants, which yields a compelling case of deliverance. Jacob spending the night is resumed in verse 22. Note the doubtlet in the E version. In 32:13 to 21, Jacob will offer a present to Ezra in 33:10. The spacing of the groups to groups of livestock will allow ample time for Ezra's anger to abate before he sees Jacob. Afterwards, I shall see the face of Panav in verse 20, an ironic anticipation of Jacob seeing God's face at Peniel. While the present Mincha passes ahead, Jacob sleeps at the camp of Machana. Jacob's encounter with a mysterious divine being at Peniel is a counterpart to his encounter with God or angels of God at Bethel. Through this symbolic and dangerous rite of passage, the patriarch becomes the eponymous ancestor of Israel, a name that commemorates the successful strivings with God and humans. Again, we can see there is a link. There is a link between the transgender experience of namings at the very heart of this story. This is a name. This is a name that commemorates the successful strivings with God and humans. In this story, Jacob Israel also becomes a symbol that is that epitomizes the people of Israel who perennially strive with God and others and survive and prevail. The tone of the story is deliberately ambiguous and mysterious. It is primarily an E story with a J text in verse 22. The strangeness of the story gives a clear theme and begins with the disconcerting doubtlet of verse 22 and 23. In one, Jacob crosses the river with the family, but on the other, Jacob remains behind. It is the middle of the night, as in Jacob's divine encounter at Bethel, and Jacob was left alone. The strangeness continues with the abrupt assault. The identity of the man is not given. Even the type of being is unknown. Hebrew Ishman can refer to a human or a deity. And wrestled, Yahebek, completes a three-way wordplay with Jacob's name, Yaakov, and the name of the river, Jabbok or Yabok, as if the mysterious encounter emerges from Jacob's being in this place. Until daybreak anticipates the mysterious request in verse 26. Jacob is injured, but refuses to relent unless he receives a blessing. By this request, Jacob reveals his recognition that his mysterious assailant is a deity. The request echoes his earlier successful attempts to gain the firstborn's blessing. Let me go, day is breaking. Perhaps angels have a duty to present in heaven at dawn, or perhaps the night time is generally a dangerous time when divine spirits may attack. Jacob gives this name and receives a new one, but the deity will not disclose his own name. The meaning of Jacob's new name, Israel, is explained as you have striven with God and with humans, and have prevailed, referring to Jacob's victory over Israel. Isaac, Laban, and now God, or alternatively gods. It is unclear whether the divine being is an angel of God or God himself, since angels can speak in God's name. Jacob's response of naming the place Peniel or Peniel both mean face of God. Since he saw God face to face, points to God himself, but the story and its language are ambiguous. Note that the divine adversary is explicitly an angel, or in Hosea 12:4. On the idea that no one can see God's face is the face and live. This idea applies also to angels. The sun rose upon him, signaling a new beginning and new life after Jacob's potentially deadly encounter. Limping, Jacob is both blessed and damaged by his divine encounter. An aside derives the dietary prohibition of the thigh muscle. The Hebrew phrase is obscure as the commemoration of Jacob's injury. Therefore, to this day, the Israelites, the shift to the present joins the sacred past to the present as a charter and justification, and discloses the Israelites as the promised descendants of the patriarch of Israel. Well, the important in front of this text is an important reaffirmation of the process of naming. That the process of naming can often be challenging, and in fact can be a divine calling from God. It's a reaffirmation. The links with the transgender struggle is the process of naming. The process of naming is never easy. But it's an important part of transgender recognition, as it was for Jacob. That's all for now. Thank you very much for bearing with us. Again, I do apologize for ongoing technical problems. We're not expert in technology usage here, and we're also working with technology here. But I welcome you to join us at 5 p.m. For CLACCA ULC Sunday Church, in which there'll be some important announcements. Again, thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you next Sunday. God bless, and that's all for now. Bye.